Welcome to the Galloway Township Board of Education, regular meeting on October 27, 2014. May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Harmon? Mr. Days?
Here.
Mrs. Evanson? Mrs. Holloway?
Here.
Mr. Noor?
Here.
Mr. Schweiger?
Here.
Mrs. Cordero?
Here.
Mr. Hubbard?
Will you please stand for the flag salute led by Rose Holloway? Thank you. In accordance with Public Law 231, notice this meeting was provided to the press occurring in the Galloway Township Municipal Building on January 11, 2014. Do we have minutes for approval or today or this week?
No.
None. Reading of communications, please.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Mrs. Cordero. We actually do not have any communications this week.
Presentations, please.
Yes, I'm very pleased for the first time this year that we have student council participating in our board meetings. Please join me in welcoming Athena Hall, who is this year's student council president.
Welcome. Do you want to give us an update on what you guys are working on at the middle school?
Currently, we've sold ribbons to support breast cancer, and we've raised over $450, and we donated it to Gilda's Club. And right now, we have a food drive, and we're donating Thanksgiving items like turkey and canned foods. And we're also writing letters to veterans, and we're going to put the letters at Applebee's, so before they eat their meal, they can read the letter.
Very nice. So if you have any questions tonight, you just stop us, tell Mrs. Avery, and then she'll get your question and you can ask it, okay?
Thank you, Athena. We do have two presentations this evening. The first presentation is the audit for the fiscal year that ended June 30th, 2014. And here to present the audit is Mr. Dan DeGangi, who is a partner in our independent auditors, the firm Bowman and Company. Mr. DeGangi.
First of all, I'd like to thank the board for having us do the audit again this year. Everything went very smoothly. The business administrator, the superintendent, and the staff done a good job in assisting us and get everything done timely and efficiently. We filed the comprehensive annual financial report, also known as the CAPRA, which is this larger document. I believe all the board members received these, and the auditor's management report is a smaller document. Both of those have been filed with the state. We've also completed the audit summary worksheet. Mr. Kelly is going to have to certify that in the next week or two. Get that done, and that'll be complete. We also have to file a data collection form. That is in process. Should be completed next week or so. We certify it as well as he does, and that's for federal single audits. You actually have two federal single audits and two state single audits. When federal funds exceed $500,000, that form is required to file with the federal government. So that's in process. Once that's done, everything will be complete with the audit this year. A couple of things to note. In the audit report, I'll just go through a few, a couple areas. I don't know if you want to know the page numbers or not. Go back and look at it later. I know it's exciting stuff. There's not too much unusual that happened this year, so there's not too much to focus on that you find things interesting. Other than, reading this whole thing word for word like Mr. Hubbard does. I think that's the only one who does that. He is an accountant. We'll give him that. The introductory section is on page 2, and that's written from the superintendent and business administrator to the board. In there, it has some of the district's major initiatives that they've accomplished over the last year, and a few items that are for future years. So that's, you might find that interesting to read, just to see what's going on specifically in the district. Financially, MD&A, which starts on page 18. In here, there's a couple of comparative statements. A lot of it's on net position, district-wide. And what that is, that takes all your governmental funds, which is your general, special revenue, debt service, capital projects funds, and it takes your other pages, places where you could see history in the audit report. Other than that, it's just a single year. So in the J's statistical, you'll have a 10-year recap of certain financial pieces of information. Besides financial, it has demographic, debt capacities, other things, and as of course your bond and your tax rates, ratables on the town as a whole. It'll tell you what's farmland, what's commercial property. So sometimes that's interesting to look at. You also can see your enrollments and where they've been over the past 10 years. It's kind of good if you're projecting out where the district might be in a few years from now. So that's just one area you might want to take a glance at. Page 38 starts the footnotes to the audit report. The first 10 pages is probably the general accounting, the accounting principles and methods used in the audit. If you want to see how something is reported as revenue, that will be there, and how we account for certain things. One area in the notes is the capital reserve, which is on page 50. In that capital reserve, there's been $2,164,000 already designated for use in the 14-15 budget. So I believe that's going to be used. That wasn't in our audit. This is subsequent. So that's going to be used in the year you're in now to do these capital projects. In addition to that, there's ROD grants and state grant funding that goes along with those projects. And I'm not sure on the percentage of state grant funding, but that's will be a pretty significant savings to the district and taxpayers. Another area is probably worth looking at. Starts on page 64 and ends on page 75. That's the district budget that we prepare each April. And this is probably 99% of all the funds that are spent in the district come from this area. Most of your state aids, your tax revenues come in here, and this is where all your operations are. So at the end of page 75, you'll see, besides your fund balances, you'll see a recapitulation of those fund balances. It'll tell you how much is already designated for a particular purpose. So there's a significant amount designated for capital reserve, which is to do your future capital projects. And there's money designated in there for tax relief for the 15-16 year. There's an amount designated that's already been used for tax relief in 14-15, and there's another amount that's, I think it's a significant amount used for 15-16. So that's good for the taxpayers. I would call your attention to the findings and recommendations section, but there's this year we do not have any findings and recommendations in the audit. So there's nothing to go over there. The records were in very good condition, and there was no major non-compliance with state law and regulations. So we did not have any report. We've also met with the finance committee and went over some minor items. That was done, and I believe I've answered their questions so far. I'll keep it brief. But is there anything that I might be able to answer for the board members?
You mentioned the debt service fund.
Oh, good. I skipped over it. I went out of order. One of the things is in the footnotes, you'll notice there's information on your debt, and it does a year-by-year recap for 5 years, and then it does 5-year increments thereafter. And actually, in the 16-17 year, debt service drops off $1,450,000. So at that time, you'll have that reduction. You still have other bonds outstanding that go past that point, but you'll have that reduction in 16-17. One other item I guess you may want to look at would be your fund balances related to your enterprise funds. Your enterprise funds are your food service, child care, gifted and talent, and community that's where you find the information.
Do any board members have any questions for the student committee? I just have a few comments. One is for Tim. This is the second year in a row with no findings or recommendations. That's a really good thing for the board members that don't make. So that's congratulations to Tim. You mentioned broad grants, just for the public, approximately, and correct me if I'm wrong, about 40% of the total cost of the project is what we get back in
It's just over
broad grants.
47%.
47%, so that's significant savings. And then the third thing is that we've already started saving for future projects. So that's also a really good thing for the public.
I'd just like to thank the board. And if there are any questions about these, feel free to contact.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. For the second presentation, I will be going out to the computer, and this is the district test report, part 1. Good evening, everyone. As I indicated, this is District Test Report Part 1, and this is based on the Spring 2014 ask. And before I get into all of the data and the information, I do want to remind the board and the public that Spring 2014 for language arts and math was the last time the ask would be administered. If you recall, last week, we talked about the new assessment, the PARC. So while it is important to see how our students did on the ask in the spring, because of the shift to the Common Core and the change in the assessment, this data gives us information, but it is limited in future planning because of those major changes. Just to remind everyone, by grade level, we have passing percentages, and on the ask, there are 3 proficiency levels, and when we talk about the percentage passing, it is the proficient and advanced combined. And one of the most important things we look at beyond just what percentage of students passed the ask at a given grade level and content area is how do we compare to the district factor grouping. We are a CD district, as well as the state average. And it's really important to do that because when you get the results, you can get very excited. Oh, we went up or we did better. Maybe so did everybody else. Or, oh my goodness, we went down in this area. Maybe so did everybody else. So you need this comparative data to see how you are doing relative to school districts that have a similar student population and socioeconomic status, as well as the state as a whole. So in August, we received the first bit of information known as the all sections roster, and that was shared with our teachers. We then started to get different reports by the demographic groups, the different clusters of each test, and the student reports that were sent home to parents and guardians in September. This is a chart that looks at our passing percentage at each grade level compared to the DFG. So I'm actually starting with a summary slide. And what this slide means, and the darker shading is ELA, and the lighter is math. that the percent you see above, think of this as, this is the zero line. So for example, we see 4.7, 6.6, 8, 12.8, etc., is the percent above our students did at each grade level than the district factor grouping. And so in third grade in ELA, we did the same as the district factor grouping, so it's a 0. But in math, we did 4.7% pass more than the district factor grouping. So you can see at a very quick glance that overall we did better than the district factor grouping in virtually every grade level for both subjects. We then look at the actual passing percentages. This first set is partial, and so of course we always want these numbers to be lower, and then proficient and advanced, and we want those numbers to be higher. The blue is Galloway. I won't get technical with color, and I will just call that green, is the district factor grouping, and then the purple is the state. And so this is third grade language arts. And again, when we talk about passing, you add together the proficient and the advanced. Then we look at third grade math. And for the most part, at the elementary level, we did do better in math than language arts. And I'm not going to read all these numbers to you. But that pattern stays the same. Blue is Galloway, the green is district, and the purple is the state. Then we go to fourth grade ELA. And then fourth grade math. And you'll see that same pattern where that partial piece tends to be lower in math. I will also point out to you, and this is a trend in the district factor grouping, and in the state, that in math we tend to have a higher percentage of advanced. And I'll just go to the next grade. The language arts advanced percentage at every category, at district factor grouping, and at state, that advanced proficient tends to be much more difficult for students to accomplish than in the mathematics area. But that is a trend that is not unique to Galloway. So this is fifth grade ELA. And then we have fifth grade math. And then we have sixth grade ELA. And sixth grade math. And then we move to the middle school, and sometimes the middle school has trends similar to the elementary, sometimes they are different. Like at the elementary level, the advanced portion is not as high in language arts, but does go up, and this is seventh grade in math. And then we go to eighth grade. And, you know, if you've been around a long time, the eighth grade is the first grade that started state testing. In fact, I was still in the classroom. The early morning test was the first type of state test that's based on state standards, as opposed to districts using things like the Iowa test of basic skills. So the eighth grade tests have been around the longest and have changed over time. And then we look at eighth grade math. So in the middle school, you have a little bit of a reverse, where in elementary, math always tends to be higher than ELA, and that either evens out or reverses at the middle school level. Can I stand here? I'll answer before Mr. Murray asks me. Can I give you the exact reason for that? No. Sometimes it could be the content, the developmental nature of the students, a lot of different things combined into leading to the results. So, when you look at some of the passing percentages, they can be a concern. We don't have 90% of the students passing. But when we look at the comparative data, we fared very well. As you can see, if you go back to that first chart, in 11 of 12 cases, we exceeded the district factor grouping. And what's good, last year we only did this in 9 of 12. So compared to like districts, we have improved. In the state comparison, we did better than those state averages 9 of 12 times. And that went up. Last year, we only did that in 5 of 12. And if you remember, the one we didn't do here was in 3rd grade ELA, but we were even. And here we are telling you that the 9 that we did were 6th, 7th, 8th grade ELA, and 3rd, every grade level in mathematics. So our comparative data is very strong, and we improve in our comparative data. Now, I will remind you, all these passing percentages go away when we start from scratch. So if you think about years where we've done year-to-year comparison from one year to the next, we will no longer be able to do that in regards to math, because with the part being administered for the first time this year, we will start with a new baseline. Nevertheless, these results still are used. We still look at our programs and the progress we've made. We look at student scale scores and their proficiency level to help, not the only factor, but to help with identification for enrichment programs such as GEN or advanced mathematics, as well as intervention programs to identify students for summer learning program or our daytime intervention programs at the elementary level and the after-school intervention program at the middle school. Later in the year, the DOE is telling us January, we should get this new measure that I introduced to you last year, the student growth percentile. And this is another new acronym, SGP, that actually is calculated into teacher and administrator annual evaluations. So more to come about SGPs. So what kinds of things we are doing? Well, in the world of assessment, you may recall in the bulletin, all teachers need to now write what are called student growth objectives. And this is where they have to look at the standards for language arts, math, or it could even be another subject they teach, science, social studies, the arts, physical education, and health. And they have to write goals. They look at where the composition of their class, and they project a goal. Depending on what grade and subject, they might have 2 of these goals, or they might have 1. So through the work in writing these SGOs, we are working with the teachers in understanding assessments. Some of the SGOs are measured by a test that comes with the program. For example, it could be the end-of-year reading streak test. Other subjects, we don't have a set program, and so teachers had to work on designing assessments. In addition to that, there is some very specific training on a new math assessment that is called Assessment of Numeracy in Education. And you may recall 2 of the themes in part were deeper understanding, in simple terms, why does 2 times 2 equal 4, as well as real-world applications. We are also working with teachers to continue to use formative assessments and progress monitoring. My students started here. How are they moving along during the year? And some of that is related to that SGO work. With the addition, although we are not a one-to-one technology district, as we have added the laptops and the iPads and still have our traditional workstations, students doing more online assessments. In fact, we have just purchased something called ExamView, which helps teachers create assessments and have students actually take them online, which A, gives the teachers data more quickly, and B, helps the students be more familiar with taking a test online for when they have to do the part. Something called a research simulation task. When Michael Hinman introduced these to you, they were first called document-based questions, and this is a higher order form of reading and writing that is connected directly to social studies, but has those language arts ties. And so this is something that is connected with PARC, but also relates to the work that students are doing in the social studies classroom. And so that work is in progress as well. And a number of social studies teachers are using these RSTs, research simulation tasks, for their student growth objectives. I think the state has created a system where I could probably say a sentence and never say a word. It could just be all initials. So I apologize for that jargon. Other things that we are continuing to do district-wide, not just because of state tests, but to help make sure that we are working together for our students to continue to progress. So we have certain time dedicated for our professional learning communities. We continue to focus on our economically disadvantaged students, whether it's those economically disadvantaged students who also need intervention programs, making sure they are getting those programs, and we continue to push our breakfast program. And we have, as the board knows, made progress in having students participate in breakfast, particularly if they qualify for free or reduced meals. This summer, we did a workshop just for our teacher leaders, intervention and referral services members, our team leaders, other teacher leaders, our TLFs, our computer lab teachers. And the work that was started on that half day in the summer is being carried out through the year, in particular through 2 professional tests that we purchased for the teachers. Ongoing job embedded professional development, some of that relates back to the professional learning community, some of that is done with our teaching and learning facilitators, and certainly when teachers work together. And then finally, our board has been very dedicated, as much as possible, to keeping a reasonable class size. And as we know, we look for lower numbers in the elementary level because of the nature of the middle school schedule. Sometimes they are going to have a higher spike. So what will happen at future board meetings? District Test Report Part 2, under the Elementary and Secondary Education Act waiver that was offered by the federal government that New Jersey took advantage of. There are now progress targets. We have received them in district, and I am meeting with the administrators in each school, but they are not, by the BOE direction, not ready for public release. I mentioned student growth percentiles and certainly other student achievement data. Things that we will continue to discuss, what resources do we need to support the teachers and students for their progress, as well as how are we doing as we continue to transition for the park. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions or respond to any comments. Ms. Cordero.
Well, I think it's fantastic that we're improving better than our district after moving. How are we doing as a district with those students that we already have passed data with, so from third to fourth, fifth, to sixth? I'd like to see that data, and those students aren't doing as well.
We can certainly, pull that data to see did the same group of students over time. One of the reasons we do that occasionally, but one of the issues with that is the test is different every year. If you talk to anyone in education, they will tell you that the 5th grade test is not as rigorous as either the 4th grade test or the 6th grade test. But we certainly can pull that data for you. The other reason, we used to do that in this presentation, but that is the purpose of the student growth percentile, where that looks at compared with students, academic peers, students who have similar test history to them, how well did they progress rest. That is actually, that SGP is a very high-level statistical calculation, a better calculation of what we could do with just showing you the bars across time, but we can bring that type of information in a future report. Mr. Carter.
The one thing I noticed obviously is the drop off in math when we get to 8th grade as compared to the LN. I didn't take notice of statewide. Is that something that's been typical? Obviously the tests are different. What are we doing?
That's a fairly similar trend. If you think about the fact that we are exceeding the district factor grouping and the state average in 6th through 8th grade math, that says that if anything, we're doing better than the trend, but that is very common. The 8th grade test is considered to be, in terms of rigor, one of the most rigorous. And I will tell you, with the transition to PARC in mathematics, it's going to get even more rigorous than it already is. About 40% of the regular math curriculum in 8th grade under the Common Core is algebra. And, you know, when we talk to parents about this, and I may have mentioned this last week, when you think about when you took algebra, advanced students took it in 8th grade, many students took it in 9th grade. There are students for years that did not take algebra until 10th or even 11th grade. So although we still identify advanced students that take full algebra 1 for the high school course in 8th grade, every student is now not just being exposed to algebra, but being expected to do certain aspects of algebra in 8th grade. It remains to be seen how that goes. That is a challenge, and we will share more information with you about that.
I have two comments. One is every 9th grader is expected to pass algebra 1. That's comment number 1. And comment number 2 is these district factor groups are now gone.
They're not gone, but there's now also, there's two different measures. There's still the district factor group, and the state gave us that data. But later in the year, when we do the school performance reports, they now also identify peer schools, that they look at a different combination of factors and give you comparative data school by school.
So our PARC test results, okay, are we comparing our Galloway kids to the rest? Because according to PARC, everyone's supposed to learn the same material at the same pace and master it. So our students in Galloway are going to be measured against other children in New Jersey? Is that my understanding?
Yes, just like they are now. I mean, the student growth percentile, and I will remind you about this when we get them, what the student growth percentile now does is it looks at a student's test history, and it takes all the students that have a similar test history. Say if I'm a 6th grader this year and I take the test. They look at how I performed on the test this year compared to how 6th graders who had similar scores to me in 5th and 4th grade did. And they will say, wow, you progressed more than students that were like you in the past. Or you progressed about the same as students like you in the past, or you didn't progress as well. And so now each student gets a student growth
So
percentile.
the student that doesn't progress as well, what's the ramification? Is there a ramification for the teacher?
That is well. So what happens is I'm a classroom teacher and I'm going to use elementary example. And I have these 22 students in my class this year. And they take, from the asking down the park. Now what happens is all of my students' SGPs are lined up from lowest to highest, and the median SGP of my students, for last year it was 30% of a teacher's summative score. Because there has been so much pushback and varying opinions about whether or not that's a good thing, for this year it will only be 10%, and it's probably going to work its way back up to 30. And then there's a school SGP as well. Now I will tell you, when teachers were evaluated and had their summative at the end of last year, for those teachers that 4th through 8th grade language arts and math. They don't have their score yet because we don't have the SGPs yet. But I will tell you, we received SGPs and shared them with teachers from the prior year just to inform them. And I am pleased to say that our SGPs from the prior year at the teacher, at the student level, at the teacher level, at the school level, at the district level were very positive. They were not made available for the public, but they were given to the school districts, and we were very pleased. So we're eager to see what these SGPs look like. Yes, and Mrs. Avery, I mean, we will, and I will tell you, when we get it, we will remind the teachers, and when I present it to the board, I will go over with you again how that is calculated. It's very comprehensive, it's very in-depth. As I said with the park presentations, there's a lot of different opinions out there about whether this is positive or negative for education in general, for the staff, and certainly for the students.
Honestly, I have a hard time wrapping my head around it, and I'm an educator, so how does a parent feel understanding this?
I will tell you, and I know we have one parent here tonight, what I find is most parents that I have talked to for 31 years now, and 21 of them in the school district, really care about how their child is doing in school on a daily basis. Does their child feel safe? Is their child progressing from their perspective? They don't tend to look at that bigger picture. And certainly if they do, we will share what information we have. Mrs. Evans.
Yes, what is the current expectation of the district for blocks of time in language arts, for example, grades 3 to 6?
I was going to tell you I knew the exact minutes off my head. Mr. Zimmerman, how many minutes a day do you have for language arts?
I think we're 140.
140? And math is 60? Yes, and that is less than the middle school. And Mrs. Everton, I will add, in the primary grades, it's even higher. The science and social studies are embedded into the other subjects.
Okay, well, I'm concerned for the teachers. I think these changes and new expectations and then these SGO, anything involving time like that, time on task, and plus those deeper understandings, not just in social studies, but in language arts, as you showed us last week, that is a lot of responsibility. So I hope they're getting the support.
Yes, we do continue to look at instructional minutes and get feedback. And one of the things that does happen at the elementary level is sometimes, if you need more minutes in one subject, they have to come from somewhere. And yet there are standards in every subject, including arts, humanities, and phys ed and health, and world language, and technology. And so you have to balance. And so at the youngest grades, as I said, things like science and social studies are embedded into language arts, and sometimes math. When we hit the middle elementary grades, we don't have science and social studies every day. It'll be alternating. And then obviously it goes up and that content becomes more in-depth. You need dedicated periods for that as well. So we do continue to look at that. Certainly for the teachers, in terms of things like SGOs, that is where our staff development days, our articulation afternoons, give them the time to work on those things and collaborate with one another. Thank you. Any problems? 160. 160. Thank you. It goes by so fast you lose track. We actually have an instructional minutes chart I could send you. Thank you, everyone. Too much little space there.
Superintendent's report, please.
Thank you. Item 1 is a resolution to accept, modify, or reject the harassment, intimidation, and bullying report presented in the board on October 20th, 2014 for the reporting period of September 4th through October 15th, 2014. No, I have one second item. I paused. Second item is a resolution to approve NJ Cusack statement of assurance for submission to the New Jersey Department of Education, and we reviewed this at last week's meeting, and there was an attachment for the board.
Thank you. Can I have a resolution to accept the harassment, intimidation, and bullying report and the resolution to approve item number 2?
So moved.
Second.
Any public comment? Any board comment? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Noor,
Yes.
Mrs. Hallway,
Yes.
Mrs. Evanson, Mr. Schwanger,
Yes.
Mrs. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Days,
Yes.
Mr. Carmen,
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero.
Yes.
Thank you.
Curriculum instruction, please.
Yes, the first item is a resolution to approve home instruction for the following students. Each student number is listed, the school that the student attends, the date and the reason for the home instruction. Resolution 2 is to approve home instruction for Bridgeton Board of Education for the following student. And this is a student who is hospitalized in Bridgeton, and we have to provide the payment for the home instruction that is provided to the student. Resolution 3 is to approve the Galloway Township Middle School Student Council to attend the Veterans Day ceremony at Galloway Township Municipal Complex on November 11, 2014. The transportation costs and account are listed. Resolution 4 is to approve the Galloway Township Middle School URSA students to attend the National College Fair in Atlantic City on November 13, 2014. It should be noted that the transportation cost is covered by the Ed Foundation. Resolution 5 is to approve Smithville Elementary School's 5th and 6th grade chorus to perform for broadcast taping at 96.9 in Northfield on December 1st. This transportation cost is paid through the student activity account. And finally, item 6 is to approve the GTMS chorus to perform at Ocean City Tabernacle for broadcast taping for Channel 40 and to perform at Hamilton Mall for the MAPS Foundation on December 2nd. The transportation cost is listed, and this is from the middle school activity transportation account.
Thank you. Can I have a motion? I'm sorry. Can I have a motion to approve items number 1 through 6 under curriculum instruction, please?
Second.
Any public comment? Any board comment? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Carmen, Mrs. Evanson,
Yes.
Mr. Noor,
Yes.
Mr. Days, Mr. Schwanger,
Yes.
Mrs. Hallway,
Yes.
Mrs. Avery,
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero.
Yes.
Thank you.
Finance and school operations.
Yes, I am very pleased to turn the agenda over to Mr. Kelly.
Item 1 is a resolution to accept the audit report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2014, as presented by Bowman & Company LLP, and also to acknowledge receipt and review of Bowman & Company's peer review report issued by Eisner Amber LLP. There are no audit recommendations.
Can I have a motion to accept item number 1 under finance and school operations, please?
So moved.
Any public comment? Any board comment? Oh, sorry. Yep.
I would just like to congratulate Mr. Kelly and his staff and all the other staff members that were involved in the audit. It's great to have a clean audit for 2 years in a row. Keep up the good work.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Days,
Yes.
Mrs. Hallway,
Yes.
Mr. Noor,
Yes.
Mrs. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Carmen,
Yes.
Mrs. Evanson,
Yes.
Mr. Schwanger,
Yes.
and Mrs. Cordero.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 2 is a resolution to accept the following food service reports: the cafeteria profit and loss statement for the month of September 2014, the trial balance report, breakfast and lunch cash sales, breakfast and lunch meal count participation, as well as special income detail. Item 3, a resolution to accept the investment report for the month of September 2014 in accordance with board policy. Item 4, a resolution to accept the board secretary's monthly certification budgetary line item status as of September 30, 2014. Item 5, pursuant to New Jersey Code, the Galloway Board of Education certifies that as of September 30, 2014, after review of the Secretary's monthly financial reports and upon consultation with the appropriate district officials, that to the best of our knowledge, no major account or fund has been overexpended in violation of New Jersey code, and there have been no changes in anticipated revenue sources and/or amounts, so that sufficient funds are available to meet the district's financial obligations for the remainder of the fiscal year. Item 6, a resolution to approve the cash and secretary's report for the month of September 2014. Item 7, a resolution to approve the October bill list for the 2014-15 budget. Item 8, a resolution to approve the October transfers for the 2014-15 budget. Item 9, a resolution to approve placement of a student in Atlantic County Special Services. The student number, the program, the dates, cost, and account are listed. Item 10, a resolution to approve transportation contracts with the Greater Egg Harbor Regional School District for the 2014-2015 school year. For each route, the type of contract, the destination, the route number, cost, and total year, or per diem cost and total yearly costs are listed. Two sections. First section is regular education. The second, for the Smithville after-school program, is funded through NCLB Title I. And finally, item 11, a resolution to approve transportation contract with Atlantic County Special Services School District for the 2014-15 school year. The account number, the destination, route, number of students, and joint costs are listed.
Can I have a motion to accept items number 2 through 11 inclusive under finance and operation, please?
So moved.
Any public comment? John, did you have a finance committee meeting tonight? Anything else you'd like to report?
No, we've spent a lot of time going over the audit report and asking questions of the auditor and pointing out some pertinent information. And we also had a couple minor questions on the bill list that were asked and answered. We also went over the financial reports, and they were all in order. And we had a couple minor transfers that we reviewed.
Was there anything to add? Rich? Okay. And I was there, yes. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Dorn?
Yes.
Mrs. Holloway?
Yes.
Mr. Dees?
Yes.
Mr. Schweiner? Go ahead.
On page, item 7, the bill list, staying on page 4, give them a copy of everything for
Okay. Mr. Schweiner?
I'm also must abstain on the bill list, E7, attachment E8, page 30, 501, 207, and 501, 216, and yes to everything else.
Thank you. Mrs. Avery?
Yes on all items, and I have to abstain on item
Thank you. Mrs. Evanson?
number 10. Yes.
Mr. Carmen?
Yes to all except item 11.
Thank you. And Mrs. Cordero?
Yes. Facilities and maintenance, please.
Continuing on, just the first item, informational item, we held a job site meeting on October 23rd, which was this past Thursday. We're at the end of the week. The job is substantially complete at this point. There's some minor trim work that's going on as the bricklayer finishes his work that we have standing. I was actually at Smithville and Roland Rogers today just to assess the work that happened over the weekend. I noticed only 2 small sections of trim that were missing, metalwork trim on Roland Rogers, and then on the rising walls in Smithville, that metalwork still needs to be completed. I'm assuming that should be addressed this week. At the meeting, the contractor assured us that they would be fully complete with the job by November 1st. Does anybody have any questions on the roofing project? All right, moving on.
You covered it.
Thank you, sir.
And said to be done on the first of the
Regular items, item 1, a resolution to approve the comprehensive maintenance plan required by New Jersey Code for the 2013-14, 2014-15, and the 2015-16 school years. Every year this is approved, it's a 3-year plan, 1 year back to current year and 1 year forward. This document will be filed as required with the Executive County Superintendent of Schools. The next item is 2, through 7 are all related to the rod grants that we received for the SDA for the fire alarm replacements at Smithville, Roland, and Hickories. Item 2, a resolution that the Board of Education approve authorization executing the delivery of the grant agreement for the fire alarm replacement at Reeves Road Elementary School. The DOE project number, SDA project number, and grant number are listed. The total approved project cost is $293,000. The total grant amount is $139,227. Facilities maintenance. Item 3, resolution of the Board of Education approve authorizing execution and delivery of the grant agreement for the fire alarm replacement at Roland Rogers. The project numbers are listed. Total approved project cost $332,000. Total grant amount $157,759. Item 4, resolution of the Board of Education approve authorization, execution, and delivery of the grant agreement for fire alarm replacement at the Smithville Elementary School. Project numbers are listed. Approved cost of $332,000. Grant amount of $157,759. Item 5, resolution of the Board of Education approve the delegation of authority to the school business administrator for supervision of the school facilities project for the fire alarm replacement at Reed Road. Item 6, resolution of the Board of Education approve delegation of authority to the school business administrator for supervision of the school facilities project for the fire alarm replacement at the Roland Rogers Elementary School. And finally, item 7, resolution of the Board of Education approve delegation of authority to the school business administrator for supervision of the school facilities project fire alarm replacement at the Smithville Elementary School. As I stated, in order to submit, to execute the grant agreement, all of these resolutions must be read, and we have to provide the SBA a listing of them. They're being approved now because we've accepted our audit. Along with these resolutions, we have to provide documentation to the SBA that we have sufficient monies available to fund these projects. Our audit shows that there is sufficient funds in the capital reserve to fund these projects and move them forward.
Can I have a motion to approve items 1 through 7 inclusive under facilities and maintenance?
So moved.
Any public comment? George, do you have anything else from facilities?
I don't believe so.
Can I have a roll, Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Schweiner?
Yes.
Mr. Days?
Yes.
Mr. Carmen?
Yes.
Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Noor?
Yes.
Mrs. Evanson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hallway?
Yes.
And Mrs. Cordero?
Yes. Community use of school facilities.
Thank you. Item 1 is Galloway United Soccer has requested the use of Arthur Branch Gym for practices on Monday and Thursday nights beginning Thursday, November 20th, 2014 through March 2015, 6:30 to 8 p.m. Resolution 2 is Garden State Academy Preschool is developing an emergency response plan for the 2014-15 school year and has requested the use of Pomona Preschool in the event of an emergency evacuation. And there was also a note that although Pomona is the primary choice, we will assess that based on the situation. Hopefully, we will never need to use this, but this would be a situation where if there was a gas leak or a bumper, this is not any long-term use, but rather they needed to evacuate their facility, that they had somewhere to take the children.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve items 1 and 2 under community use of school facilities?
So moved.
Any public comment?
I have a question about this Garden State. Is that close to the school?
Yes, it is, Mrs. Holloway. It is right on Jim Lee's Road.
Any other board comment? Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Days?
Yes.
Mrs. Hallway?
Yes.
Mr. Carmen?
Yes.
Mrs. Evanson? Mr. Schweiner?
Yes.
Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Noor?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero?
Yes.
Thank you. And there are 2 informational items regarding FSA items and use of the facilities.
Personnel, please.
Yes, the first item is a resolution to accept a letter of intent to retire from Linda L. Amy, food service manager at Smithville Elementary School, with regret, effective June 30th, 2015. Ms. Amy has worked in the Galloway Township Public School District for 27 years. and her dedication and commitment to students and staff are appreciated by our entire school family. And there is a brief letter from Mrs. Eaton.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve item number 1 under personnel, please?
So moved.
Any public comment? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Carmen?
Yes.
Mrs. Evanson?
Yes.
Mr. Days?
Yes.
Mr. Noor?
Yes.
Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Schwanger?
Yes.
Mrs. Hallway?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero?
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 2 is to approve adjustments to the salary guide in accordance with the negotiated agreement for the following certificate staff due to changes in their earned degree/credit status. Resolution 3 is to approve the following office support person for the fall 2014 semester of the Southern New Jersey Southern New Jersey Consortium for Gifted and Talented Students. The stipend, hourly rate, and account are listed. I will remind everyone that that is an enterprise account where the parents' fees pay the salaries. Resolution 4 is to approve the following substitute custodian for the 2014-15 school year effective October 28, 2014 through June 30, 2015. The hourly rate and account are listed.
Can I have a motion to approve items number 2 through 4 inclusive under personnel?
So moved.
Second.
Any public comment? Board comment? May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Days?
Yes.
Mr. Noor?
Yes.
Mr. Schwanger?
Yes.
Mr. Carmen?
Yes.
Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mrs. Evanson?
Yes.
Mrs. Hallway?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero?
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 5 is to approve the following teaching and learning facilitators for novice teaching training, not to exceed hours per person, and the account are listed. And this is funded through NCLB Title IIA. Each TLF and the hourly rate are listed. Resolution 6 is to approve the following participants for novice teacher training, not to exceed 2 hours per person. The hourly rate and account are listed, as are the names of the teachers participating, and this is also funded through NCLB Title IIA.
Can I have a motion to approve items 5 and 6 under personnel?
So moved.
Second.
Any public comment? Board comment?
I have a comment. The novice teacher training, is that new teachers to the district? Because some of our teachers that we hire come with experience, so are they going to, they don't have to go to this training?
We actually opened for years our novice teacher training. Part of it is designed particularly for brand new teachers. Part of it is for teachers that may have had experience but are new to Galloway and might be in a different grade, a different content area, etc.
And this is in addition to the mentors that new teachers have?
That is correct. This is part of our mentoring plan.
And the team leaders that also have?
That is correct.
So this is the third layer?
It is.
One to check. Okay. Thank you.
Any other board comment? May I have a roll call?
Mr. Days?
Yes.
Mr. Schwanger?
Yes.
Mrs. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Noor?
Yes.
Mr. Carmen?
Yes.
Mrs. Hallway?
Yes.
Mrs. Evanson?
Yes.
Mrs. Cordero?
Yes. Policy, please.
We have no policies this evening.
Notice of public meetings.
Yes, for the next 2 months, there is only one board meeting each month. The date for each is listed, and as always, those meetings are here in the cafeteria at 7 p.m. We do want to remind everyone that November 4th, 2014 is an election day, and this does include election of board members. We also pointed out that voting in Galloway is at Roland Rogers and Smithville Elementary Schools as 2 of the sites.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on any items? Any old business? Thank you. Thank you. Any new business? Okay, we go around the board, starting with our student representative, Thea. How did you think our meeting went?
It went well.
It went
I
well?
have a question though.
Sure.
For the park tests, when are we going to be taking them? And how many times are we going to be taking them this year?
Good question.
Sure, Athena. It's interesting. The part is different than asked. The first time you will take it in March, and it'll be, depending on the subject and grade, it could be 2 days, it could be 3 days. It's not a whole day, it's just a certain block of time in the morning. And then in May, you take a different part of it. And that can be 2 to 3 days per subject again. So as an 8th grader, you will have 8 days of park, and you also have ask science. I'm sorry, it's 9, I apologize. It's 9 total. So it is more days than you've had in other years. And you've probably seen your teachers maybe doing some things differently, and you will be taking it on some form of a computer, perhaps a laptop or your regular workstation. Good question. Thank you for asking that.
Do you have any other questions for us? Well, thank you for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure. Mrs. Avery. Mr. Days.
A couple things. First, I'd like to welcome Ms. Hall for the meeting. Second, I'd like to thank the schools for what they're doing for Veterans Day ceremonies, including veterans coming into the schools to speak to our students. And the third thing is I'd like to congratulate and really think it was great what GTMS did for the Cancer Awareness Month. I saw pictures of the information outside. It was beautiful, wonderful, and God bless you all.
Mr. Schwender.
Nothing tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Carmen.
Nothing that I have.
Mrs. Evanson.
I want to thank the superintendent for letting us know in the bulletin about the burial ceremony. I'm also very happy to introduce you about athletes. My children were there last year, and they give each veteran a video, okay? And I know those cards are going to be really appreciated, so thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Hallway.
I'm very happy with what they're going to be doing for the veterans, and I think it's very educational to the children to understand that.
Thank you. Mr. Noor.
And my only comment is to welcome to the end of our meeting. I hope you got something out. I hope you signed my student comments.
They were limited.
Yeah, they were. I was good tonight.
I have a few items. Going to what Mr. Day said, Mr. Razi, thank you for setting up that GTMS and being a big part in that.
It was with the principal and a few other teachers that made it together and also set the capacity.
Okay.
They were really good organizers. We, Mike and myself just assisted.
Okay. Well, thank them too. Mr. Hubbard had an item for me to speak to you about is the board retreat, and that you have some dates that we will discuss. Sure. And while you're doing that, I'll just hit my other item.
Absolutely.
As we all know, Election Day is next week. I believe that we may have some write-in candidates running for our third seat on the Board of Education. And for informational purposes only, not that we're supporting any particular candidate, but I wanted to know if any board member knew of someone that was running, just so that we could all be aware. We can go around the board. Do you know someone, John?
Joseph Dominic.
Joseph Dominic. Does anyone else? Does anyone in the public? Yes?
Yes, Michael Grant.
Mike Grant, you're running. Is it Michael or Mike?
Michael.
Michael, and can you spell your last name for us?
TRPP.
Michael Grant, G-R-E-D. Okay, thank you. And then back to the board retreat.
I will do a Veterans Day reminder, particularly for Smithfield. Dr. Hathaway asked me to remind the board members, if you are a veteran or have a relative that's a veteran and wanted to send a photo in, they would include them in the PowerPoint, but she does need them sooner rather than later because they were working on that. And if you are planning on attending the program at any school, please just let me know so I can give them a heads up. In terms of the board retreat, first of all, I will remind the public that the Board of Education members and Mr. County and myself pay for that ourselves. That does not demand tax dollars. Mrs. Schwartz has been working very hard to try to get details from the location, from the Golden Inn. At this point, the only thing she's been able to get from them is that big band weekend. It's February, bless you, it's February 6th. And we know that if you go on big band weekend, the room is more, and I think the meal package and there's a fee to go into that. But unfortunately, they have not, despite her trying several times, given her any prices. So I don't know whether the board members just want to talk about availability or things of that nature.
So we were looking at the weekend prior to that weekend, so it's, I think, January 31st and then February 6th. So at this point, I believe Mr. Hubbard wants to see everybody's availability, if everybody is going to be around, or if anybody has plans scheduled for that time already. Is everybody available? Okay, so I will tell Mr. Hubbard either weekend looks fine.
And as soon as we get the cost information and any other details, we will get that right out.
Thank you. So that will close our public session. Can I have a motion to adjourn? We do have closed session. Do we read this first?
Yep.
Okay, we close first. So motion to close. Whereas Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, Open Public Meetings Law provides for a public body to meet in closed session, whereas the Galloway Township Board of Education desires to discuss certain matters described in subsection 7B of the aforementioned law, to wit, those matters pertaining to potential litigation, Rand's fire alarm, whereas the Galloway Township Board of Education will disclose the discussion topic of the closed session at a public meeting once the justification for the closed session no longer exists. Now therefore be it resolved that the Galloway Township Board of Education shall now enter a closed session for an approximate time limit of 60 minutes.